Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. This is my new table saw. It's an 8-inch Draper. I'll put a link to it down below. It comes with one of these generic machine stands and I find it's a bit low. You kind of want a bench to be wrist height. And as my outfeed table is also going to be my main assembly table, I definitely want it higher. Now as a temporary measure, I did just stick some bits of ply under the feet and that worked fine. But I'd like a more permanent solution, and I'd like it to be movable, and I'd like it to have built-in storage. So actually, I've got quite a long list of the wants for it. Luckily, I had loads of these offcuts of 18mm MDF from cladding the interior of the new workshop. So I thought I could get this made without spending any money and clear up a load of the scraps I've got sitting around. As you can see, I'm really using a combination of the two tools. The table saw for the longer kind of rip cuts, and then the Festool track saw for the cross cutting. I wanted to be able to store these Stanley boxes, so I'm going to cut down a bit of wood to use as a spacer to help set the shelf heights. I'd much rather have a physical piece of wood than marking and measuring, because I'm far less likely to make a mistake then. The table saw also has a sliding carriage for cross cutting, so I can use the fence with a stop block against it to set the width and then make the cut. I can then do the same again for the other side, just forgetting one little detail. So what happened there? I was using the fence as a reference because it's got a nice tape measure built in, but you don't want to use the fence because the wood can bind there. So you put a block in, butt it up against that, remove it, then slide it through, and then it could still potentially bind, I suppose, but it's certainly safer. The bigger the block you move so that it will stop it twisting, the better. Anyway, I did it right the first time. Second time, I forgot to remove it, and I was using a long piece because I was stupid. I should have cut it down to shorter, and that's the mistake. The one good thing I did is I stood to the side, so when it came back, it missed me. Anyway, hopefully that's a lesson learned. So I don't like that crosscut sled. Well, not crosscut sled, sliding carriage. It came with the saw, and I don't really see the benefit over having a crosscut sled. In fact, a crosscut sled would be safer. If you're using the crosscut sled, I find you hold the piece either side as you push it through the saw. So I think I'm going to change the design of this stand we're making, remove the sled, make an extension wing to the side, and then we'll make a crosscut sled another day. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, I know I said let's get on, but first I'll tell you why I don't like this sliding carriage. So it's got flip stop here, which is very handy, but if we have the flip stop to the max, it means we do about 62 centimetre cut. But if I just had a crosscut sled, I'd certainly get 62. In fact, from that side, I'd get more like 82. And this side could be, well, potentially infinite with the door open. So, not very good for that. If I want to cut a board like this, put it on there, I can't get the slide far enough back to actually use that. As if I had a crosscut sled, I could. If I want to put the board through this way, obviously the fence is in the way. So you have to undo these, spin the fence out of the way. It has little marked pins that pop up, so you should be able to set it to the correct position each time. But every time I've done it, I get the square out, line it all up, and it always needs a bit of adjustment. As with a crosscut sled, if you set it up properly with the tracks, every time you take it off and put it back on, everything should be square. So it sticks out, it's not easy to use. I don't really see any advantage over having a crosscut sled. Well, and the advantage of the crosscut sled is it's not in my way. I just pick it up and put it on when I need it. So I'm going to take it off, and if I decide that's a mistake, it's easy to put back on. Right, I'll show
show you a few of the other problems. Well, I say problems, these are not really problems. So this is the side of the saw, this is the sliding carriage. The stand I was going to make was basically just going to be a box. But if I want to build a wing on the side, I still want access to this panel. It has the 4 screws and it's useful to get in there to be able to lube up any moving parts and vacuum out. Because the dust collection I don't think is going to be amazing on this. So I want access to this. So whatever frame I build on the side, I want this bit open. So now let's get on.
Okay, with all that out of the way, let's continue with plan A, which is to make a box for the saw to stand on. This is just a shop project, so I don't care about it looking super pretty. I'm just going to glue and screw everything together. I've got these new Wolfcraft corner clamps to do this. They're spring loaded, so you can install them one-handed. I'll put a link down below, and they certainly make it easier to hold everything in place until you can get some screws in. I'm not pre-drilling pilot holes, I'm just putting screws straight in. I'm using Reisser cutter screws that have a drilling point on the end, so they're quite good for this. Again, I'll put a link down below if you've not used them. I mean, if this was going to be a nice bit of furniture, I would definitely drill pilot holes, but for the shop, this just speeds it up. So with the 4 sides of the box together, I'm just going to put a back piece in. So I'm going to put some glue on all sides. Then I can lift the box on top of it. This 18mm back is going to make the whole thing very strong. And this cast iron table saw definitely has a bit of weight to it. Now I need to cut down 3 shelves to go in to put these tool trays on. I can use these infamous spacers that I made. They definitely make the installation of shelves easier. So as you can see, shelf goes in, just sits on the spacers, pushed in, then I can get some screws in to hold it in place. I'm not going to glue it in case I want to change their positions in the future. I probably made it harder here by turning on the side. I should have just got a square and drawn a line where the screws need to go. But I was clearly just having a day of doing stupid things. Also, I think previously I said I cut down 3 shelves. No, I had 3 boxes, and the bottom of the box acts as the 3rd shelf. I already had these casters. I think they're 75mm wheels. At the beginning, when I was working out how high I wanted this to be, I did remember to take into account the height of the casters. These have got quite big holes in the plate, so a normal screw head would just go straight through them. You could use a washer, but I've got these Craig screws with these pan heads, so they worked really quite well. Now let's get this wing off. The sliding carriage just comes off very easily, and then there's 4 bolts holding this on. As it's so easy to do, if I decide I do want it back in the future, it won't take long. So my plan for the side is to add another box on really. I only just had enough material left to do this, and it probably would have been better if this was my plan from the start rather than adding another bit on. But things don't always work out as you plan. So this box is going to have that bit of MDF at the back, at the bottom, and that's going to allow me to store another one of those Stanley containers. And then the top is going to be open, so I can open the side of the table saw and clean it out. This is a technique I did when I built my last table saw stand, and it worked so well, I'm going to do it again. And that is take the table saw off, turn it upside down on a flat surface. This time I've got my nice new bench, which I know is flat, so that definitely helps. So my box goes under the table saw, I suppose. I want my side wing to have an 18mm ply top, so I'm just going to put some scraps there to represent that, and then I can get the side wing in place. you can see how I'm going to still have the access to that side panel of the saw. By having it all turned upside down like this, I know that the top of the side wing is going to be perfectly level with the top of the table saw. Trying to adjust things until they're perfectly flush is quite tricky, so this takes all the thinking out of it, and I can get the two bits screwed together. With everything off the bench and the correct way up, I now can attach a bit of ply to the top. I just felt ply would be a bit more hard wearing than MDF, and also it matches the outfeed table. Just to help hold it in place while I get some screws on, I'm clamping it down. I don't want to get it glued in place in case it gets beaten up and then I can change it in the future. A few screws just go in from the underside if I can get them to stay on the drill. And while I'm down here on the floor, I'm just going to add this little bit to the front so I can get another Stanley box in there without it falling out. A little bit of protection, some Danish oil on the top, which is also what I put on the bench top so it'll look the same. And then I can start getting everything put away. I know I said Stanley box, but my jigsaw can go in there for now. And then these deep Stanley boxes can go under the saw. As you can see, under the side wing, I've got my other Stanley tower I made earlier in the year. And that's it all done. It means my workbench is a much nicer working height, I can pull it out to clean, and the space under the saw is not wasted. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos.